The storm arrived without warning that morning. Rain slammed against the cafe windows so hard it sounded like the heavens were breaking apart. Usually, the small roadside cafe buzzed with laughter, clinking cups, and rushed conversations. But that day, only one customer sat near the corner booth. Ethan Cole, a widowed father with rough hands, exhausted eyes, and barely enough money in his pocket to survive another week. After days of skipping meals so his young daughter Lily could eat properly, Ethan had finally managed to save enough for a hot breakfast. The smell of fresh eggs and toasted bread filled the air as the waitress placed the plate in front of him. But just before he lifted his fork, the cafe door burst open. A woman stumbled inside. She looked as though the storm itself had dragged her there. Her coat was soaked through, strands of dark hair stuck to her pale face, and her entire body trembled violently. Conversations instantly died. Even the waitress froze for a moment. The woman barely had strength to speak. "Please," she whispered weakly. "I just need help." If you still believe small acts of kindness can change someone's life, take a moment to like, comment, and subscribe to Bright Soul Stories. Your support helps us continue sharing emotional stories that remind the world compassion still exists. Ethan didn't think before standing up. Maybe because he recognized pain when he saw it. Maybe because he knew exactly how loneliness felt after losing his wife 3 years earlier. Or maybe because Lily once told him, "Dad, kindness always comes back somehow." Whatever the reason, Ethan picked up his breakfast plate and walked toward the woman. "You should eat," he said quietly, placing the warm meal in front of her. The woman stared at him in disbelief. Her shaking hand slowly reached for the plate as tears gathered in her eyes. She ate desperately, like someone who hadn't seen real food in days. Ethan sat across from her silently, watching carefully in case she fainted. There was something broken inside her far deeper than hunger. After several minutes, she finally spoke. "My name is Elena." That was all she offered. No explanation, no story, no reason for the fear constantly flashing in her eyes. Ethan didn't pressure her. Some wounds were too heavy for words. He understood that better than most. After his wife passed away from illness, silence had become part of his life too. Long nights, empty rooms, bills piling up faster than he could pay them. Elena finished the meal slowly, holding the empty plate tightly as though letting go meant losing the only safety she had left. Outside, the storm began fading. Inside, her fear didn't. Ethan called Lily's school and told them he'd be late picking her up. Then he removed his old jacket and gently handed it to Elena. "You're freezing," he said. She tried refusing, but he wrapped it around her shoulders anyway. For a brief second, her expression changed. Not fear, not sadness, shock, as if kindness was something she had forgotten existed. The hours passed quietly. Little by little, Elena relaxed enough to speak. She admitted she had no money, no phone, no family nearby. Only a small silver necklace she clutched constantly in her hand, as though it carried memories too painful to lose. Ethan offered to drive her somewhere safe. Immediately, panic filled her face. "No," she said quickly. "Please. They can't know where I am." She refused to explain further, and Ethan respected that. Before leaving, he handed her the last few dollars in his wallet, even though it meant he would probably go hungry again that night. Elena looked down at the money, speechless. "Why would you help me?" she asked softly. Ethan gave a tired smile. "Because someday," he replied, "I hope someone would help my daughter if she ever needed it." Tears rolled down Elena's cheeks. For the first time since entering the cafe, she looked at him not with fear, but gratitude. She whispered, "Thank you, Ethan. You may have saved my life today." Then she walked toward the door. Before leaving, she turned back one last time, her eyes filled with emotions Ethan couldn't understand. And then she disappeared into the gray afternoon. Days passed, then weeks. Life returned to normal. Ethan continued working long construction shifts while struggling to raise Lily alone. Bills remained unpaid. The electricity was close to being shut off. Eventually, he convinced himself he would never see Elena again. Until one morning, exactly 1 month later. A black luxury car stopped outside his tiny apartment building. Men in expensive suits stepped out, and in one of their hands was an envelope with Ethan Cole's name written across it in gold lettering. Months later, on a calm autumn evening, Rowan stood beside the apartment window, watching Mira laugh while finishing her homework at the kitchen table. The sound of her laughter filled the small home with warmth he once thought his life would never hold again. No leaking ceilings, no empty cupboards, no fear of tomorrow, just peace. The kind of peace that only arrives after surviving years of hardship. On the shelf near the window sat a framed photograph Mira had taken of him one afternoon at the park. Beneath it was a handwritten note Rowan kept folded carefully beside the frame. Kindness changes destinies. He never heard from Ara again. Not directly, but every few months, anonymous donations quietly appeared at the community shelter near the diner. Blankets during winter, meals for struggling families, school supplies for children, no name attached. Still, Rowan somehow knew, because healing people often become the reason others survive. One rainy evening, nearly a year after their first meeting, Rowan returned to the diner after work. He sat in the same booth by the window, the same storm clouds gathering outside. The waitress smiled when she recognized him. "The usual?" she asked. Rowan nodded softly. As he waited, his eyes drifted toward the entrance. For just a moment, he imagined Era walking through the door again. No fear in her eyes this time, no trembling hands, only peace. Maybe someday she would. Maybe she wouldn't. But some people leave fingerprints on your life even after they disappear. Rowan finally understood something important. A single act of kindness may feel small in the moment, a meal, a jacket, a few gentle words, but to someone standing at the edge of hopelessness, it can become the reason they keep living. And sometimes, the good we give away returns in ways we never expected. Rowan looked out at the falling rain, then smiled quietly to himself. Because on the day he thought he had almost nothing left to give, he had unknowingly changed 2 lives forever. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe to Bright Heart Stories for more emotional and inspiring journeys that remind us humanity still matters.